welcome back to my channel. Today I will be giving you some tips and tricks on how to play the frontline class better in Paladins. A quick disclaimer though, I am a damage and flank main, so I don't claim at all to be the best frontliner out there. But as I've spent a fair amount of hours on the game playing all different classes in many different playstyles, I think I at least know what I'm doing and I want to share that experience with you. I will bring you this video divided into sections. First, I will give you a brief explanation of what a frontliner is. Then I will give you some general tips on how to improve your tanking. And then last but not least, I will give you some information on how to properly make a build and buy items. Anyway, let's get into it.
Liverpool to Portsmouth, yeah, that chorus got the crowd screaming.
First of all, you've got to know what the overall strengths and weaknesses are of a frontline, or tanks for short. Tanks are champions in Paladins who have an insanely high health pool compared to all of the other classes. Their overall focus is on protecting their teammates and soaking up shots. Depending on the type of tank you play, either aggressive like Fernando or defensive like Barrack, you can also have a fair amount of weapon damage. Tanks mostly have abilities tied to protecting their teammates like shields. Their ultimates also have a huge impact on the outcome of a round. Most of their ults are focused on keeping control of the point or zoning out enemies to make sure they can't push further. Lastly, tanks are also the slowest of all champs, as their movement abilities will most of the time not be more than a simple charge forward. You have probably noticed that the focus of a tank lies mostly on supporting your allies, and that's true, so the first tip I give you is protect your teammates. As you're a frontliner, your capabilities while acting alone are very limited. That's why a good tanker will always prioritize the safety of his teammates, as they are mostly the ones keeping you alive, like providing suppressing fire and killing enemy champs. If you see that one of your teammates is low, or thinks that one of your team needs cover when you are grouped up, deploy a shield. Being a pocket shield to a good damage champion or flanker can be the most annoying thing to counter for the enemies. The second tip will be positioning. As you have a lot of sustain, and probably a healer with you most of the time, you can soak up an incredible amount of damage. That's why you should always be the center of the attention of your enemies. That doesn't mean that you have to be on the objective 24/7, that means that you have to get the attention of the enemy team, without getting surrounded of course, and buying time for your flankers, damage dealers and maybe even the other tank to flank the enemy and wipe them out. Also don't hesitate to retreat, as sometimes staying alive and waiting for the next push is more useful than dying and making the next push a 4v5 situation. Number 3 is to play according to your type of tank. In Paladins there are two types of tanks, defensive and offensive. Defensive tanks excel at hunkering down a location, preferably the objective, and staying there without getting pushed away or killed by the enemy team. Examples of defensive tanks are Barrack or Inara. Offensive tanks on the other hand are tanks that have some good damage output and a fairly effective retreat method. Examples are Ashe and Fernando. Although experience with each champion will give you the opportunity to play a little bit out of your role, as a beginning tank you should stick to the type of tank you are, as it will make life much easier than if you don't. The last tip will not be to stick to the objective too much. Yes, a tank can soak an incredible amount of damage and is good for capping a point, but good tanks also flank once in a while. If you have a good amount of teamwork and communication, and you follow tip number 2, you can flank around with your team while the other, more defensive tank maybe, gets the enemy's attention. Tanks can actually flank, although I would not focus on doing some nasty hard flanks, but rather staying with your team or trying to trap your enemies by firing at them from two directions. If you get an enemy surrounded this way, they will be as good as dead. Starting off with items, I cannot really tell you what items to pick. In some situations it's better to take one item over the other. Take this section with a grain of salt. You'll be starting off most of the time with a red item. This will be cauterized in almost every single situation, although Wrecker or Bulldozer could have their uses for you, for example for Terminus. I would leave it to other champs in your team, like your damage or healer. As for green items, there's no doubt that you should take Rejuvenate. Honestly, if you don't pick Rejuv on a tank, you're probably stupid. Yellow items. These are going to be very useful to you, depending on the tank you're playing. Master Riding is never a bad option, but so are Morale Boost or Chronos. Pick the one that you need the most. And last but not least, the blue items. If you're having a lot of trouble with enemy CC, you should pick up Resilience, no doubt. If you're not, however, you could pick up either Blast Shields or Haven. It's pretty straightforward. As for loadouts, the only thing I could really recommend you pick up is everything that can either make you more versatile, for example Hot Pursuit on Fernando, or increase your survivability, increased max health, or healing. Any other type of cards in your loadout totally depends on your tank and your playstyle. So, that was it for now. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Leave a like, a comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.